The time is 8:45 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Dilini Gunawardena and read by Tilani Pires. The President's Fund initiates 2 new scholarship programs. A memorandum of understanding is inked to enhance sustainable community-scale farming. China agrees to provide for a project on digital transformation of general education in the island. Plans are underway to establish National Teachers' Council. Industry Expo 2024 is set to take place in June. And on international news, Israel says it controls Gaza side of Rafah crossing as truce talks to resume. And sports tennis, Rublev overcomes illness to claim Madrid Open title. As per the instructions of President Ranil Wickremesinghe, the President's Fund has initiated 2 additional scholarship programs alongside the ongoing scholarship initiatives. These scholarships will be extended to monks, nuns and lay students enrolled in Pirivan and Sila Mata educational institutions, as well as those pursuing information and communication technology at the GCE advanced level effective from May 2024. The scholarship distribution will cover all 822 Pirivan and Sila Mata educational institutions across the country. A total of 6 scholarships will be granted to each institution. The selection of scholarship recipients will be responsible for the Pirivenadipati Thera or the institutional director. Scholarships will be granted in 2 categories, with an anticipated 5,000 scholarships set aside for lay scholars. Under the first category, scholarships will amount to 3,000 rupees per month for 12 months beginning in May 2024. The second category will offer scholarships at 6,000 rupees per month for 24 months. Further details and the application form will be made available on the official website of the President's Fund, www.presidentsfund.gov.lk, as well as on the official Facebook page www.facebook.com/president.fund. Additionally, the application and instructions will be published in the Government Gazette on the 10th of May 2024. The Chinese government has agreed to provide for the project in accordance with the project proposal for the digital transformation of general education in Sri Lanka. A feasibility study has also been conducted in relation to the implementation of the project. The proposed project is expected to provide delivering classrooms, receiving classrooms, data center and tables for schools within the Ministry of Education to facilitate these activities, a studio room and a conference room. These devices will support the effective and efficient performance of the blended learning method, sharing resources, imparting the knowledge of teachers with special skills to the students when needed, avoiding the problems that arise in the case of shortage of teachers and facilitating the proposed educational reforms. Accordingly, the Cabinet approved the proposal presented by the Minister of Education to implement the proposed project based on the relevant feasibility study report. A 16-member delegation comprising participants in the National Security and War Course 2023-2024 of the National Defence University of Pakistan paid a courtesy call on the Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Aruni Vijayawardena, today at the Foreign Ministry. The delegation, which included both senior military and civil officials, is presently in Sri Lanka as part of their course study to tour the countries in the region. Foreign Secretary Aruna Vijayawardena, in her welcome remarks to the delegation, highlighted the strong ties and close cooperation that exists between Sri Lanka and Pakistan. Director of the Foreign Secretary's Bureau, Maxwell Kegel, delivered a presentation on the foreign policy of Sri Lanka, which was followed by a brief interactive session. The Pakistani defence delegation was led by Air Commander Fazal Muhammad Khan. Director General of the South Asia Division of the Ministry, Niluka Kadrugamur, and senior officers of the Sri Lanka Army were also present. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Cabinet has granted approval for the establishment of a National Teachers' Council. A government statement noted that the National Education Policy Framework has proposed the establishment of a National Teachers' Council in line with other professional service categories as well as international best practices to enhance the professionalism and quality of teachers through continuous professional development. A preliminary draft in this regard has been prepared after long discussions with the relevant stakeholders in the education sector. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the combined proposal presented by the President and the Minister of Education to instruct a legal draftsman to prepare a bill for the establishment of a National Teachers' Council based on the draft prepared. The Minister Dr. Ramesh Pathiran announced that the forthcoming Industry Expo 2024 will grace the BMICH from the 19th to the 23rd of June under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Additionally, the Minister highlighted the debut of the inaugural international conference alongside the prestigious Industry Green Awards ceremony aimed at fostering a culture of sustainable practices within the industry. Minister Ramesh Pathiran made these remarks while addressing a media briefing at the Presidential Media Centre held on Monday under the theme Collective Path to a Stable Country. That ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala.
In accordance with President Ranil Wickremesinghe's strategic vision, the government is poised to initiate a pioneering pilot project in the Anuradhapura district earmarking a substantial investment of $100 million to revolutionize agricultural practices. This requisite agreement has been formally executed with the Nevita Company of Portugal, signifying a significant milestone in the project's progression. With a total investment of $100 million, each farming family stands to benefit from an allocation of $6,000, facilitating the implementation of solar pumps and other energy projects for sustainable agriculture. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala.
And on Watch Light tonight, the Russian Embassy in Sri Lanka has announced registrations for the International Scientific Physics Olympiad held to expand cooperation between countries in terms of finding and supporting talented youngsters. Students and school graduates have been invited to take part in the International Scientific Physics Olympiad, which will be held in Kanti, Manasik from the 3rd to the 11th of July 2024. The Russian Embassy said the program includes theoretical and experimental parts. Those interested have been requested to send in their applications on or before the 15th of May 2024 to ispho.mipt.ru. That came to you in Watchlight. Moving on with world news and the headlines first. Israel says it controls Gaza side of Rafah crossing as troops talks to resume. Police break up pro-Palestine protests at Berlin University. The third phase of Lok Sabha vote is underway. The Israel Defense Forces say it has operational control of the Gaza side of the Rafah crossing. The announcement follows what the IDF said were targeted strikes against Hamas in the eastern Rafah. Talks are to resume in Cairo after Hamas said it would accept a deal drawn up by Egyptian mediators. It was, however, rejected by Israel as far from meeting its core demands. It is not clear exactly what Hamas has agreed to, but the proposal is thought to include the release of hostages and the return of displaced Palestinians within Gaza. Meanwhile, Israel's war cabinet voted to continue operations, but is sending a delegation to indirect talks in Cairo. The German police have broken up a protest by several hundreds pro-Palestinian activists who had occupied a courtyard of Berlin's Free University earlier today. The protesters had put up about 20 tents and formed a human chain around the tents. Police called on the students via loudspeakers to leave the campus. Most protesters had covered their faces with medical masks and were shouting out slogans. In recent days, students have protested or set up encampments in Finland, Denmark, Italy, Spain, France and the UK. Polls are underway in the third of the seven-phase Indian election, with 11 states voting for 93 seats in the Lok Sabha. The first two phases of the vote were held in April in 190 constituencies, with a voter turnout of 66.1% and 66.7% respectively. The elections primarily pit the National Democratic Alliance, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party, against the Indian National Development Inclusive Alliance, spearheaded by the main opposition Indian National Congress Party. Voters will elect representatives to fill 543 seats of the Lok Sabha. The party or coalition that secures a majority will form the next government. Back to the world news headlines. Israel says it controls Gaza side of Rafah crossing as truce talks to resume. Police break up pro-Palestine protests at Berlin University. The third phase of Lok Sabha vote is underway. That ends world news.
Development news.
A delegation led by State Minister Dilungun Amunugama participated in the Hanover Mess 2024 in Hanover, Germany recently. This was the first time that Sri Lanka had officially participated in the Hanover Mess, which is considered to be world's leading industrial trade fair. This year's edition of Hanover Mess was attended by over 130,000 visitors from 150 countries, 4,000 exhibiting companies, 300 startups and over 300 economic and political delegations from all over the world. That came to you in development news. Moving on with sports news. Aubrey Rublev overcame illness and lost in the first set to beat Felix Auger Aliassime 4-6-7-5-7-5 for his first Madrid Open title. The Russian world number 8 was under the weather with a fever coming into Sunday's final and looked out of sorts when he trailed 4-1 in the opening set. But Rublev fought his way back into the match, striking at the end of both sets to get past the world number 35 and win his second Masters 1000 tournament. The 26-year-old had lost 4 consecutive matches before arriving in the Spanish capital, but his performance will have encouraged him before the French Open, which starts in 3 weeks' time. That came to you in sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Cabinet of Ministers has approved a deal with Indian billionaire Gautam Adani's renewable energy wing Adani Green to develop wind power stations in the country. Adani Green Energy will be developing wind power stations in Mannar and Punareen in Sri Lanka. The Cabinet has appointed a negotiation committee to evaluate the project proposal, which was furnished by Adani Green. That was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
And on economic news, according to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, official reserve assets increased by 9.6% to $5.43 billion in April 2024 compared to $4.96 billion in March 2024. However, this includes proceeds from the swap with People's Bank of China equivalent to around $1.4 billion, which is subject to conditions on usability. That came to you in economic news.
Weather report.
An enhancement of showery conditions over most parts of the island expected during the next few days. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the western, Sabaragamu and central provinces and in Galle, Matra, Mannar, Vavuniya and Mullaitivu districts after 2 p.m. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the northwestern, north central and Nuva provinces during the afternoon or night. A few showers may occur over the coastal areas of Puttalam to Galle via Colombo during the morning hours. Fairly heavy showers about 50 millimeters are likely at some places in the western and Sabaragamu provinces and in Galle and Matra districts. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the central and Sabaragamu provinces during the morning hours. That was the weather report. And now to end this news broadcast, the main points once again. The President's Fund initiates 2 new scholarship programs. A memorandum of understanding is inked to enhance sustainable community-scale farming. China agrees to provide for a project on digital transformation of general education in the island. Plans are underway to establish National Teachers' Council. Industry Expo 2024 is set to take place in June. And on international news, Israel says it controls Gaza side of Rafah crossing as talks to resume. And on sports tennis, Rublev overcomes illness to claim Madrid Open title. That ends this news broadcast, and now it's back to Chandima Virakon, as always, on a Tuesday night.